things that I would like us to dispel is the idea that this insurrection and this attack happened suddenly, that we couldn't see it coming, and that it was like just this outburst and all of a sudden a bunch of people rushed the Capitol. I want to dispel with that notion very quickly, because everybody knew that something was going to happen. A week before, 1 week before, the week prior to the insurrection, I started to get text messages that I needed to be careful. And that in particular, I needed to be careful about the 6th. So then that night, I immediately contacted my staff and I said, we need to figure out a security plan. I drove up and so I drove up to the Capitol, and I thought I got really lucky because I found a parking spot right in front of the stairs that go up to the Capitol. And I was like, nice, this never happens. Usually I have to like park in the boonies and walk all the way over. And so I park, and what I start to notice is that this crowd of insurrectionists is already in town. And they were holding rallies and doing all of this stuff, starting on Monday of that day. So when the vote was called, people started, this crowd that would eventually rush the Capitol, they would start running and like coming near the Capitol when votes were called to see members of Congress walk in. When you guys go to a parade and there's just like that aluminum fencing to keep to mark off the parade route, and it's just like waist high, just like aluminum fence, and sometimes the police like pull it aside to let people cross the street. There was just one of those in the perimeter around the Capitol. And there are all these people with like these huge like flag poles with the spear tips and whatnot. If you so much as say Black Lives Matter around the Capitol Hill complex, it's like 9 barricades go up. And there is a crowd of Republican kind of like Trump people that have crowded behind my car. And so I walk down towards them, and they're right behind my car. And they all pull out their phones and they say, hey, AOC, why do you hate this country? Recording me. Why do you hate this country? And I look back at them and I said, hate this country? I was like, I love this country. That's why I dedicate every day of my life to it. Everyone in the crowd was just like, well, what? She's driving a car. She's driving a car. Like, they didn't know what to say in that moment. And then they see that I drive an electric car. So then that argument goes out. And then they're just like, oh, you just think you're fancy. You just think you're better. Like, blah, blah. Where does that come from? I don't know. But, it's literal, like, schoolyard bully silliness. But on the inside, I'm going to tell you, my heart was beating really fast because there's a crowd of people with spear-like instruments, however people would, classify that, mobbed right behind my car. That's what happened on Monday. So on Monday, we were already, as members of Congress, having heightened interactions with these people. And so anyone who tells you that we couldn't have seen this coming is lying to you. I don't think a lot of people felt safe walking where it literally felt like people were looking at me in the grocery store, deciding what they were going to do. Like, are we going to do something right now? Starting like around noon that day when I was in the grocery store, I had already come to the conclusion that it was not safe for me to be outside. There were members asking, like, what's the security plan? Because the day of the Electoral College certification, everyone has told us, and we already feel and know that this situation is pretty volatile. What Capitol Police told House admin is, don't worry, all of the plans are taken care of, but we can't tell you the details because telling you the details may cause a leak. All we need you to do is show up at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. This is what was told to members of Congress by Capitol Police leadership. This is like the leadership of Capitol Police. All of a sudden, I hear boom, 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 boom on my door. And then I hear these huge, violent bangs on my door and then every door going into my office. Like someone was trying to break the door down. No one saying who they were, nobody identifying themselves, and just boom, boom, boom. G just looks at me back and he just goes, hide, hide, run and hide. And so I run back into my office. I slam my door. There's another kind of like back area to my office, and I open it, and there's a closet and a bathroom, and I jump into my bathroom, and I close the door, and then I realize that the bathroom was the wrong choice. I should have jumped into the closet, and so I start opening the door to the bathroom, and I'm gonna run across to the closet when all of a sudden I hear that whoever was trying to get inside got into my office. And then I realized that it's too late. That it's too late for me to get into the closet. And so I tried to I go back in and I hide back in the bathroom behind the door. And then I just start to hear these yells of, where is she? Where is she? And I just thought to myself, they got inside. I thought everything was over. My brain was able to have so many thoughts in that moment, between these screams and these yells of, where is she? Where is she? And so I go down and I thought I was going to die. And I had a lot of thoughts. You have a lot of thoughts, I think, when you're in a situation like that. And like also one of those thoughts that I had was, I just happened to, be a spiritual person and be raised in that context. And I really just felt like, if this is the plan for me, then people will be able to take it from here. I had a lot of thoughts, but that was the thought that I had about you all. I felt that if this was the journey that my life was taking, that I felt that things were going to be okay. And that, I had fulfilled my purpose. Anyways, sorry guys. So anyways, as I'm hiding in this bathroom, hearing these yells of these men, or just just one man going, where is she? Where is she? I start to look through the door hinge and I see this white man in a black beanie just like open the door of my personal office and come inside the personal office and yell again, where is she? And then all of a sudden I hear my staffer G yell out. And he's like, hey, it's okay. Come out. And I come out, and this man is a Capitol Police officer. There was no partner, was not yelling, Capitol Police, etc., etc. But then it didn't feel right. Because he was looking at me with a tremendous amount of anger and hostility. I talked to G, my legislative director, after the fact, and he said, no, I didn't know if he was there to help us or hurt us either. And then he just looks at me and yells at me, and he just go down and then go to this other building. We run down and we run to this other building. And it wasn't until we get to that building that we realize he didn't give us a specific location. You can hear all of these rioters behind the glass of the doors, and we have no specific location to go to. I don't know where to go. And so I think, and there are 2 members of Congress that I know in that building. And I was like, let's go there. And so it literally felt like just, I don't know, it almost felt like a zombie movie or something. It's the 5th floor, and we run around, and I'm not finding this member's office. I hear the hinges cracking, it just feels like you can hear all of this yelling and screaming. I start running back, and I remember that I had seen Katie Representative Porter. I gotta put respect on everybody's names. So I saw Representative Porter walking into her office, and so I run back, and I knock on the door, and I'm just like bang, 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 and she opens, and I'm like, hey Katie, can I shelter with you right now? And Katie's like, yeah, of course, come on in. I'm like, yeah, come on. And so I start ripping through Katie's office like a mad woman, looking for where I'm going to hide when they get into this office. G and some of the other staffers are pushing the couches up against the door. It's like all of these drills that people had on school shootings. At this point, we start getting intelligence that bombs have been found. I'm wondering or feeling or preparing for one of the wings of the building to explode. After that leadership knew about the threats of violence and didn't prepare adequately for it, you start thinking back at all of these things. And, I think about that officer and just the uncertainty. Did he not say that he was Capitol Police on purpose? Did he lose himself in that moment? Did he not give us the extraction point location because he forgot? Or was he trying to actually put us in a vulnerable, situation? And I didn't feel like I was okay or, secure in any way at any point that day. My story is one of many stories of what happened in the Capitol. There were food service workers that were afraid for their lives. There were custodial workers that had to clean up after the just wreckage of white supremacists, and many of those workers were Black and brown and immigrant, then put in through the experience of having to clean up for white supremacists, clean up after the mess of white supremacists. There were other members of Congress, there were staffers, there were children. And so all of this is to say is that my story is just one story. It's not the only story, nor is it anywhere close to the central story. So many of the people who helped perpetrate and who take responsibility for what happened in the Capitol are trying to tell us all to move on. And they're trying to tell us to forget about what happened. They're trying to tell us that it wasn't a big deal. They're trying to tell us to move on without any accountability, without any truth telling, or without actually confronting the extreme damage, physical harm, loss of life, and trauma that was inflicted on not just me as a person, not just other people as individuals, but on all of us as a collective and on many other people. And that we cannot move on without accountability. We cannot heal without accountability. And so all of these people who want to tell us to move on are doing so at their own convenience. The reason I say this and the reason I'm getting emotional in this moment is because these folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize, these are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other. As a survivor, I struggle with the idea of being believed. When I see a party who cheered on violence that killed 5, maybe now 6 people, a second Capitol police officer took their life in the aftermath of the attack this past week. When we are still losing people, when we don't know how many people are going to develop PTSD after what happened, when we don't know how many people are still hospitalized. I mean, there are people who, sure, they may not have passed away, but they lost fingers, they lost eyes. And these people are just trying to tell us it's not a big deal. And they're trying to say, you're making too big a deal over it. Or my favorite, this past week, Ted Cruz and now Representatives Chip Roy, and oh, by the way, some of the other representatives who actually encouraged people to threaten members of Congress or tweeted out the location of the speaker are now telling me to apologize for saying and speaking truth to what happened. These are the tactics of abusers. Or rather, these are the tactics that abusers use. And so when I see this happen, how I feel and how I felt was not again. I'm not going to let this happen again. I'm not going to let it happen to me again. I'm not going to let it happen to the other people who've been victimized by this situation again. And I'm not going to let this happen to our country. Ever. I'm not going to let it happen. Maybe in some world, Senators Josh Hawley or Senator Ted Cruz or Representative Mo Brooks would say, you know what? I was mistaken. I did not fully realize what the impact of my actions was going to be. And now in retrospect, I see that it incited something that I never wanted to incite. And for that, I am sorry. But no, they've had almost a month and they haven't said that. They have doubled down and they said I did the right thing. And if I could go back, I would do it all over again.